Hey there, I just want to say yoga can be for everyone. However, it is your responsibility to determine if you are ready and able to perform this workout video. If you or a family member have a history of heart disease, high blood pressure, or are obese with any physical or medical condition that could be aggravated by a physical activity, please consult a physician before proceeding. If you are pregnant, also consider consulting a physician. If you have any history of injury such as neck, back, shoulder, or knee, please proceed with caution and stop immediately if you feel any pain, lightheadedness, or nausea. The user assumes all risks. Thanks, and I'll see you on the mat. Hey everyone, welcome back to Connection Yoga. My name is Kat, and I welcome thee to our pose breakdown series. We are continuing with another balance pose today. A little tricky, but super cool, can work great on the body if we can do it centered, stable, and aligned. So we're going to talk about those things today, as well as modifications and so much more. The pose is called extended hand toe pose. It is an asymmetrical standing balance pose based on its own classification, and that's it. We are going to go through each part of the body, breaking down both the skeletal and muscular body to make sure you're set up for success in this pose. First, I am going to demonstrate, and then feel free to try alongside with me. Again, this is a little bit of a tricky pose, so I highly suggest warming up the legs a little bit, doing some chair pulses at the very least, stretching a little bit, doing a little bit of a free flow yoga. I highly recommend before trying to do this. You can always hit pause and come back. Otherwise, just listen and absorb with your mind. Okay? So, demonstration. Ta-da! All right, I'm going to turn to the side so you can see it this way. Boom. And we're going to break down the legs, how to get up into that position if you can't fully get into extension, all the great pieces. Starting with the feet. So you have a balancing foot and a lifted foot. I'm going to try and keep referring to them as your standing foot, lifted foot, to keep it simple. Standing foot, all four corners of the foot are pressing down. Your toes will not be pressing down. Make sure that your toes are lifted free off the earth so that you are not clenching the hip in this pose. If you press down on the triangle, that is the base of our foot, so the ball and the heel and the edges, you will be pressing down and you will be sending energy back up the leg and back into the hip socket to stabilize the leg instead of clench the hip. Okay? Just something to notice as you're going through. So you're going to press that foot down. You can have it at 12 o'clock or slightly open to the side, but very slightly to create a little bit more of a platform for you to balance on. Whichever way you prefer, you're going to ground that foot down. Then the standing knee is in extension. So to keep the knee in extension and help balance on this leg, your quad needs to be engaged and lifting up. Lifting the extension up the leg as you press the foot down. All right? So also your inner thigh and your inner hamstrings, those need to be lifting up and in as well. So our standing leg muscle are fired up, okay? Again, the foot is important as well. So your foot muscles are working, legs muscles, all of that to keep extension in the knee without locking it out. So you want to keep a micro bend in that knee. They say like, okay, lock that knee out. And there is a way to lock it without actually like drawing the bone in and locking it like that. So you keep the micro bend, and as you press and you lift those muscles up, they lock around the knee joint, okay? So keep a soft bend in the knee and press down, and that will assist in keeping that knee in extension and balancing the leg. Now, the lifted leg, all right, it is starting out in front of us. So, first and foremost, our hips need to stay neutral. So with that lifted leg, we want to keep the hips square. So as we lift it up, we don't want to be going like this and tilting over. So to bring it up, you bend it up maybe to the hip height, flex the foot, and gather your balance here at balancing crane, okay? You can start to square that foot down, press it, extend over the knee on the balancing leg, and build a foundation that is strong and stable for you to explore and expand. So once you've stabilized that leg, you will slide your hand on the inside of your lifted leg, reaching for the big toes with your peace fingers. That's your index and the adjacent finger. Reaching inside of the big toe and the next toe, and wrapping around the ball of your big toe, okay? And your thumb comes around, so it creates this sort of bind. Get a little closer to me so you can see it. So, peace, fingers through the toes, bind, and then you start to extend that leg forward, okay? So, it is a balance, literally, not to be punny, of effort and ease, especially with the extended leg. If you have short hamstrings, short muscles, you might be thinking, I don't even think I could grab my toe. That is okay. We will talk about that. But if you can reach your toe, we will start there. So reach the toe and square the hips. So you can feel your hips with your left hand, still grounding down on that leg, and then maybe bring it square forward with your knee and toes pointing up, okay? Keep your belly in, core engaged, tailbone tucked under, pubic bone up in your hip area, and then you can maybe start to straighten that leg. Keep it close, and then play with an edge, okay? But while you're doing that, while you're figuring out how much you can extend that foot, we'll break down the upper part of the body. So as you can see, I'm slightly bent over to be able to reach my foot. The end goal and what I should be doing is keeping my chest tall. Keep my heart shining up to the sky so that our spine stays neutral. So we want our spine neutral and stacked over the strongest line of our body, which is that balancing leg, okay? When we're here, it's not the most stable. So we want to stay tall. And so to help with that, once you get your bind, you can put your left hand, the back of it, on your low back and brace it there to try and press it down as you press your heart up, okay? So once you've come up, you can start to brace and open that chest. And even if your knee's bent, you can see come up a little bit taller. Okay, open that heart. And maybe bend the standing knee a little bit more than a micro bend if you need to. If that is like a little bit much on the standing leg muscles, there are so many ways. But make sure that your belly is in, extending out the spine, out the core, tall, lengthening spine. So that is most of the pose, okay, with the natural bind hand to toe. What you can do instead of using your big toe is you can grab a strap, a towel, a t-shirt, whatever. And you can use that. And you can wrap it around the ball of your foot, not the big toe, exactly. And you can just put both straps in the one hand. And you give yourself that length if you potentially need it. If you're struggling to reach that, but you think your leg could extend, your arm. Everyone's arm length is a little bit different, so you just have to explore and see. If you potentially have short arms, no matter how open, it could be difficult for you to reach that foot. Bring in a strap. It's not that bad. They are amazing, really, to have on hand. And once you start feeling the depth that they can pull to and the new places that they present, you might consider keeping one on hand for more of your practices. So just an option and modify to try and get you to this pose if this is something that you really want to do. One other key thing, two other key things for your balance here is with your eyes, okay? So we talked about the head for last, but we should have talked about the gaze first. When moving into a balanced pose, you need to find a place that's not moving to look at. Keeping your eye on that place keeps the world still around you so that you can inwardly focus on what you are doing. For example, there's a little knot in the floor in the wood in front of me. I'm gonna keep my eye on that, ground my standing foot, lift my leg to balance, bind, extend, and lift the heart. Okay, we take it stage by stage, building up to our new heights. Here, so you can see the side, my hips are square, my legs extending. But additionally, for the balance, the last thing is you need your pelvis to be able to shift a little bit over the standing legs so that your weight is more centered instead of like literally half your weight's on this leg. So it's a very subtle lateral shift of the pelvis over the standing legs. And to help you do that, you gotta use your butt, okay? So your butt is going to be squeezing you in, all right, to allow you to shift subtly here, but keep it all compressed. Squeezing it in so that you can move, okay? And by doing that, we can access the back of the leg, the hamstring lengthens, the knee is extending, we are working the strength in our legs, and so on and so forth. So with that, let's talk about breath real quick, and then we'll do a few more modifications. I know, it's gonna be a long one today. So, breathing. Your hip flexors deep in here are working in this pose. So, both with the flexion of the lifted leg hip and also the standing leg, they are pressing the core in to keep you engaged. So if there isn't enough support there, if you aren't supporting yourself enough in the hip flexors, in your psoas, then the stabilizing action of your abs with the bracing of your arm and overall your breathing capacity could be reduced. So given that this is a working balance pose, I mean, they all should be, but this one definitely, if you are excessively creating tension with your bind, trying to force it to happen, and you are not breathing, then you're taking it to an even worse level, potentially, where your breath might not be able to keep up with the amount of effort that you are expending. So, that could lead you to increased breathing, which could throw you off balance or worse. So, make sure that you are breathing, and that if you're noticing you are losing your breath to come out of the pose, recenter yourself and go back in. How many times have I done this? So many times in poses where you just realize, okay, I'm at my edge here and I need my breath. You bring it back and you come back in. Same here. So, moving into modifications, if you notice that this one was a lot, there's a few things you can do. First, with the strap, but you can also do this on the wall. So simply you can back up to it, have your butt up on it so that it's a little supported, but you're still gonna work yourself, but you have that balance support. So you can lift that standing leg, Keep your hips square. Bind, or if you're using the strap, wrap it around, and then forward. So you've got a little bit of pressure on your booty behind you to be able to balance and like play with what this bind is, you know, this can support you, okay? So another way that you can do this is a supine version on your back. So if you want to give that standing leg a rest, but still mess with the bind and the benefits of the back of the leg, do it on the ground, okay? And that reminds me, one thing that might seem natural because you're binding and pulling that foot in, but might not be, is that you need to really actually pull that leg in. So if you're just like out here and you're grabbing it, whatever, to help stabilize your hips, you want to plug that leg in by pulling on it. Whether you're on the earth here, that helps keep your low back on the earth and plug it in so that you're accessing the back of the leg. But it helps immensely when you're standing and balancing too. To plug that in, plug the standing hip in, stabilize yourself so that you can explore, access so many things, and so on and so forth. So the last variation is a little bit of a spicier version. So we will finish with that. Something to think forward to next time you maybe want to get adventurous. So this is with your spine flex. Now we talked about sitting tall. Yes, very important, especially when you are flexed, okay? So you bring it up same way that you would. Maybe you bring the other hand in front to add to that bind. You lengthen out of that spine, plug that lifted leg in, and you can flex forward. Okay, this is a struggle for me even, that as you can see, it challenges the balance. It challenges the balance because we're not as centered and stable. It challenges the length of our legs. How much length can we access? And so on and so forth. So if you're wanting to try that, really focus on that core pulling you in and lengthening you over that leg so that you're not just dumping and you're not just hunching either and potentially hurting yourself. You want to extend. So it might be a little bit easier with one leg as compared to the other. For me, it probably, yeah, it's easier on this leg for me. I was a cheerleader back in the day and this was my dominant leg. So as you can see, things might be different on different sides. Just honor that, keep trying, and keep an open mind. That's it for today. I know I've held you long enough. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed this pose. And I'll see you next time for our next pose breakdown. If you liked this video, give me a like, subscribe, hit the notification button. Otherwise, have a beautiful day, and namaste.